Buongiorno a tutti e benvenuti alla conferenza stampa di Bastarden, The Promised Land. Prima di cominciare con le domande vi presento gli ospiti al tavolo, che sono la produttrice Louise Best, lo sceneggiatore Anders Thomas Jensen, gli interpreti Simone Bennenbier, Amanda Collin e Mads Mikkelsen e lo sceneggiatore e regista Nikolaj Arcel. Allora, alzate bene la mano per le domande così che così che possa vedervi, e vorrei cominciare con una domanda al regista, al Nikolaj, chiedendo appunto di raccontarci, perché è qualcosa che abbiamo letto, come la sua esperienza di padre ha cambiato il suo punto di vista sulla propria filmografia, come in qualche modo questo film come dire, figlio di un nuovo sguardo anche sulla propria professione, il proprio lavoro.
Yes, you know, it's obviously a very banal and simple thing to say that your life point of view changes when you have kids because it's so obvious. But until it happens to you as a human being, you don't know that it's obvious. You actually have no idea how crazily it changes your life. So it was just a perfect storm for me. When I read this novel, it was exactly the same time I had my first child, quite late in life, as a 47-year-old. And it was almost like reading the novel was exactly about that. It's family versus ambition. And up until that point in my life, I had been many things, but primarily I had just been about making films. My entire life was 24/7. Movies, movies, movies. What's the next movie? What's the next point of excellence that I can reach in my craft? What's the next ambition? And I think, you know, when my son was born, I was like, oh, wait a minute, my mind exploded. And I felt there's something here that's completely much more important than anything else. And so it was quite perfect for me that happened, because I could finally, me and Anders Thomas is also a father. He has been for quite a while. We could write this film, which was very much on point in terms of being, are you one thing? Are you love, or are you money? Are you ambition, or are you family? And that's why it was very personal for me.
Ad Anders Thomas e ancora a Nikolaj vorrei chiedere come hanno lavorato sul romanzo, se, come dire, sono state apportate delle modifiche ai personaggi, e qual è secondo loro il cuore di questa storia che valeva la pena sviluppare e raccontare.
Thomas, you want to take it?
It's funny because I should have reread the novel, because when you worked on it and seen the film so much, sometimes you don't remember, because it's your own in a way. But we did a lot of structural changes. Nick is very much into structure, so we there's, as with all novels, it takes place. I mean, the book is, I think, how many years? It spans over 30 years, the book. And there are loads of stories that small stories where you just dwell with character stuff that we have taken out. So we try to do quite a tight structure, I would say. Yeah, can you remember a big chunk we took out or anything? What's the big difference?
The main thing was that Ida Jessen's novel, which we both really loved, obviously, otherwise we wouldn't be here, was very taken by the nature, and she's almost Tolkien-like in her way of describing the nature of the heath and the flowers and the plant life and everything. And obviously, while that's beautiful to read, it might not be so interesting to watch for hours and hours on end about walking around in nature. So a lot of that we changed. There were certain characters that we took out and certain plot things that we changed. But I would say Ida has seen the film and is very, very happy, and so she feels certainly that we've been faithful to her novel.
C'è una domanda? Prego.
Hello, this is Yanis from Greece. Congratulations for your film. I would like to ask the director, Nikolaj, or anyone can answer from the panel, in which extent do you find relevance in contemporary times of this old story? Because I personally did find, so I would like to know your opinion. Thank you.
I think it is relevant when there's a character who goes through what Ludwig goes through and what and Barbara goes through. I think it's relevant because it's very universal. How do you manage your life? Do you believe that you can control your life, or do you lean into the chaotic nature of life? And I think that's something we all know very well as human beings, and we struggle with. And so that is the biggest relevance for me, is the emotional journeys of the characters.
Mi aggancio appunto all'ultima domanda, perché mi piacerebbe chiedere agli attori che cosa i personaggi che hanno interpretato hanno parlato, che cosa hanno detto loro i personaggi che hanno scelto, e in che modo hanno così pensato al proprio rapporto personale con l'ambizione, a proprio questa dualità tra ambizione e affetti che a volte non vanno d'accordo.
Okay, I'm gonna start here. Well, the first part of the question was about the character. He was fascinating to me from the top, like from the beginning. There's a sorrow in him, something broken inside him that I really find fascinating and really look forward to working with as an actor. He's also theatrical and funny and big, which I also really found interesting. My personal life and my ambitious life is, for the time being, very intertwined and I think also balanced. But of course, that's like water; it changes all the time.
Go. Do you want to end? I can say something. Very clever. I think for me, it was a definite attraction to the character and to Nikolaj. And but there was one moment, I don't know if you remember, where obviously this modern work-life balance tale in the 1750s. I was a little, when you are about to give your whole life to a director and let him decide, it was important for me to understand that you also knew Anne Barbara's essence. Of course, you wrote her, but we had some talks about this. And then you showed me a video of your son, and I heard your wife's voice in the background, and I was like, he married an Anne Barbara. He knows the love. And so I surrendered, and it was a wonderful journey.
Where can I add anything? I think when you talk about something that makes sense for us in 2023, there is a tendency that we always try to squeeze 2023 into historical pieces like our moral, our ways of looking at life. And I think we were very fortunate with this story. We didn't need to. We have a character here who has all the toys in the classroom, and all the kids wants to play with him because of that. But at the end of the day, he's a very lonely man. And then we have a woman that we probably would say, that is a strong woman, but we have no idea how strong she is. This is 50s. That she can even stand up on her two legs after what she's been through is insane, so there's no comparison, but we can relate to it. My character? Yeah, it's interesting to play a man who is so focused on one simple goal that he's prepared to burn down the world to achieve that goal. And also very interesting to give life to a man who wants to be part of something that he hates. I find it human, I find it complex, and a beautiful story.
Ci sono domande? Ma Nikolaj, vorrei ancora chiedere il suo rapporto con i generi. Questo è un dramma storico, non è il suo primo, però naturalmente c'è del western, c'è l'epica. Ecco, che rapporto ha con i generi, come ha lavorato nell'equilibrio di questi diversi generi?
That's an interesting question. You know, I think I think it's very obvious from watching this film of mine and also my last Danish film, A Royal Affair, is that I'm a big fan of big epic movies. That's something that I fell in love with at a very early age. You know, I don't know if I've told this story here, but my father actually took me to see Death in Venice when I was 10 years old. I had no idea what was going on, but I loved every second of it. And that's a big, sweeping movie, you know, and I've always loved that. So I was mostly thinking about those epics from the 40s and 50s and 60s, specifically David Lean films, you know, I'm a great big fan of David Lean, and so that kind of came naturally to the way of telling this story with a lot of scope and intimacy at the same time. In terms of the Western genre, we never thought about it as a Western. Really? You thought about it as Western? Okay. I didn't think I didn't think as much about it as a Western as I recognized there were Western elements in it, in as much as it's about pioneers that arrive in the wilderness and try to colonize and build a life for themselves, and people are riding horses and have guns. But there's also, you know, the royal court. There's the landowner who lives with fancy wigs and all that, and that is different from the Western genre. So I thought it was an interesting mash between those different genres.
Mm-hmm. And Mads aveva già lavorato con Nikolaj in Royal Affair, che è un altro appunto period drama, un altro film in costume, e quindi vorrei chiedergli che regista ha trovato a distanza di qualche anno e come si è sviluppato, come si è evoluto il vostro rapporto professionale.
We didn't work together for 10 years, but we've known each other since. We became friends when we did the first film. And so obviously there is a couple of weeks of honeymoon where we have to find each other, figure out how we work together. When he says something, what does that mean in my ears, and vice versa. And when we started out this time, we didn't have to go through that honeymoon. It was we just kind of started from scratch and agreed and disagreed and started diving into the plot and the story. So it was quite effortless. It was I was very disappointed it took him 10 years to call me, but he did.
Yeah.
Anders, prima si diceva appunto del lavoro fatto sulla struttura del romanzo, e siccome ci sono delle novità, dei cambiamenti rispetto al romanzo, se come dire, questi cambiamenti sono stati fatti in collaborazione con gli attori, se ci sono state delle conversazioni riguardo proprio la costruzione dei personaggi e la modifica di questi personaggi rispetto al romanzo.
The structural part of it, we didn't. I mean, we finished the script and sent out to the actors. But of course, as always, I think in Denmark, anyway, Nick and I'm sure, and a couple of other directors, we also because we have time to do it, because a lot of times you can't get the actors, and so we always take in a lot of inputs from the actors. So we did go through every character with the actors, and we did some rewrites, which is always, I mean, it's always great, because when you have more good minds, is better than just the two of us.
Yeah. I remember when we first knew that this was what we wanted to do, before we even wrote the script, I called